Welcome back. You're watching NewsX. Well, Jagdish Gupta, retired chief engineer of ONGC, and his wife Pushpa Gupta have been running helter-skelter to free their son Amit Gupta. The couple claim that Amit has been kept in inhuman conditions under solitary confinement for 3 months in Qatar. Amit Gupta moved to Doha in Qatar in 2013 and has been working with Tech Mahindra for 12 years. He in fact was promoted as the region head of the company in 2022. He was detained by the state security on the 21st of January this year when he was having dinner with his parents at a restaurant. His parents claim that while he has been arrested on the charges of data theft, no specific reason has been given for the detention. The family has made an appeal to the PMO to help with his release and also met Vadodara MP Hemang Joshi. In Feb 2024, India secured the release of 8 Navy veterans who were charged under espionage and given the death sentence in Qatar. This was considered a major diplomatic win for India. So, what can be done to save Amit Gupta is the big question. Will the government step in? And if it does, will they be taken seriously is the big question. Professor Madhav Nalapat, editorial director of the Sunday Guardian, with us on the show. Mr. Gautam Mukherjee, senior journalist, also joins us. Dr. Sharad Kohli, senior economist, with us on the program. Manand Dwivedi, foreign affairs expert, also with us on the program. Professor Nalapat, well, India has been in a worse situation when it comes to releasing its own citizens. Anything peculiar that strikes you about this case that would make it, a tad bit difficult for, the Indian diplomacy to secure Amit's return? And of course, the caveat here is that it seems that he's been charged with something which relates to national security, since it's talking about data.
Look, I'd like to point out that in this case, lightning has struck twice. As you correctly said, you had the Navy people arrested, and now you have this. In my view, there's an organized campaign on to basically tar the reputation of Indian employees, whether they're in tech or anywhere else, of Indian employees, especially in tech. Because the fact is that a lot of people from a lot of countries would like to work in the jobs for which actually Indians have been found the most suitable. And frankly, the other countries, a lot of them in Europe, they'll have a much higher charges per month. And frankly, the work output will be less and the hours of work will be less. The reality is, Vineet, that nobody can work as hard as Indians can. And that has been proved and proved multiple times across the world. In the US, for example, Indian American doctors are the only doctors that the patient has any hope of having them visit the patient or the patient visiting them on weekends. Otherwise, doctors shut up for weekend. Finished. Saturday, Sunday, sorry. I don't know who you are. Forget it. So that is the reputation Indian work people have got. And I would say this is completely unbelievable. And it's happening twice in Qatar. Qatar is becoming a very dangerous place for Indian professionals. Fortunately, the UAE and other countries are quite different. They understand but as far as Qatar is concerned, we do have leverage. First of all, the Prime Minister's office and the MEA, the Prime Minister Modi, has a lot of leverage with all the sheikhs, and I would include Qatar in that. And the MEA is very diligent in carrying out Prime Minister Modi's instructions. So I would be hopeful of that. And don't forget, India is a very major buyer of Qataris gas, a very major buyer. And if something happened, let us say, there are sanctions on gas sold to China, which could happen in the Trump administration because the tension between the US and China, and the Qataris are then forced to choose between the US and China. Obviously, they'll choose the US. They got a US base there. And very importantly, India then will become very important in their calculus. So looking at it from the longer term, I would say the Qatari authorities should nip in the bud this kind of effort to tar falsely Indian techies and Indian employees with a brush that they do not deserve. And I think Qatar, as I said, lightning has struck twice, and that is very unusual. So I think the royal family in Qatar, the Al Thanis, they're a very family of highly learned people, and I do hope that they will take personal note of the situation, and they'll personally act to ensure that a false reputation is not given to Indian workers and Indian employees who are the best, frankly, of any nationality in the Middle East, throughout the Middle East, Vineet.
Absolutely, sir. Uh, Dr. Kohli, taking a leaf out of what Professor Nalapat said, he's made a very crucial, very pertinent point that India's soft power in making sure that our citizens are well treated is the economics, is the soft power of how we have dealt with Qatar in the last few years, rather, and that is exactly what we should use.
Well, good evening, Vinny. Good evening to my fellow panelists and NewsX viewers. We have, Vinny, bilateral trade with Qatar of about $13 billion, and most of it is imports. We are heavily importing energy from there, as Professor Nalapat rightly said, gas in particular. Now, whenever somebody goes and settle in these Gulf countries, it takes about, 1 year for somebody to know the local laws. Now, for Amit Gupta, who's been there for 12, 13 years, I mean, it's very surprising. He would have been knowing, coming from the IT background, coming from the tech background. Obviously, he would have been knowing the laws with regard to data management, data privacy, data mining. So I'm sure something related to data mining about the country must have happened, whatever must have happened. Well, I strictly feel that I think Qatar's Emir recently came to India. He met Prime Minister Modi, and there was a lot of bonhomie between the Emir and Prime Minister Modi. So I'm sure, his personal relations with the Emir, MEA's strong diplomatic moves, MEA's strong diplomatic relations with Qatar, they will go a long way. But the process in the Middle East, I mean, we have about close to 1 crore people staying in the GCC region. We call it as the Gulf Cooperation, the whole GCC region. Only in Qatar, we have about 700,000 Indians living there, which is almost, I was seeing about 25% of the population of Qatar. So Indians per se have got a very strong role to play in the Qatar economy. So this sends a very wrong message, because I've been to Doha a few times, and I know, when you're walking in public, you're not supposed to be holding hands. If you have a lady in the car, I remember one of my friends informed me when I was in Doha that if you have a lady in the car, your friend riding, then if she's sitting in the front, she should be your wife. She cannot be your girlfriend. I've even heard of that. So public display of affection is not allowed. There are many such rules, but it doesn't take long for any expat to learn those rules. And since Amit was staying there for 12, 13 years, we'll all be very surprised if he wasn't aware. Obviously, he was aware of what's going on. So this seems to me like a conspiracy, because many a times I have observed, Vineet, that there are people within the country who become envious of somebody's position, because Amit Gupta here was made the regional head of Kuwait and Qatar for Tech Mahindra. So I think there is some kind of envy sometimes which develops. So they result in frivolous complaints being made, of false scales being fabricated, somebody having animosity against the person. So there are a lot of angles, although publicly Qatar has not disclosed where exactly is the crime. I mean, what wrong has been done to the country as such? A breach of data, or probably breach of data privacy, or national security concerns is a very general term. If you specifically come out with what exactly was data breach, what was done, what wrong was done, I think that will specify the matter. The problem with these GCC states is they are not very transparent. And they also try and show, a very important point here, Vineet, that they show that our diplomatic relations with the country are on one side. But, our judicial system is very independent, which is not the case, actually, because the entire judiciary in the Middle East is controlled and run by the emir, by the sheikh, by the head of the state. They are the heads of the courts also. So, but they try and show, and there is Sharia law there, which, the law which is very strict. We all know that Sharia law operates in the GCC regions, which is sometimes very difficult for Indians to negotiate, understand, and sometimes abide. Although most Indians who go there, they know how to abide by the Sharia rules and what are the rules and regulations, as I said earlier. So for now, it's a very sad state of affairs. We had those Navy people the 8 Navy people who were detained for a very long time. I remember that we discussed on your channel as well. And now we have this case. I think in this situation, Indian, especially the professionals going there, and this is we need the state of professionals. Imagine there's a huge quantum of expats over there who are working in the labor section. They're working there. They are carpenters, they're electricians, they are masons. There are a lot of people who've been there as on blue collar jobs. You can imagine if a person as qualified as Amit can be a victim of this. You can imagine the state of the people who come for the blue collar background or who are doing these kind of petty tasks over there. So they get detained every day. I hear stories of people getting detained in Dubai, people getting detained in Kuwait. Some laborer, somebody was working at a site and he accidentally touched a woman while moving on the road. There are so many stories like these, and I think the Gulf countries will have to relook at their laws for expats who are not exactly aware of the law. There has to be some kind of concession given. You cannot impose that law arbitrarily for somebody who's come to your country. He's contributing to your GDP. He's contributing to a project. He's contributing to creating wealth and money for your country, besides, of course, helping himself. I feel this is definitely not fair, Vineet, as far as expats in those countries are concerned.
Your take on what's happened here? I agree with Dr. Kohli. These people are basically doing the work in your country that you're incapable of. They've been hired for a certain reason, and of course, Indian minds, have been instrumental in making sure that the economies of these countries, the affairs of these countries, the growth of these countries is steady and stable. And yet, this is the kind of fear and this is the kind of treatment that they are meted out with. Gautam.
Well, what comes to mind is business rivalry. In the case of the Navy personnel, there was talk of a Pakistani element that spoke against our Navy people and managed to get them into serious trouble. They were going to be executed. It was a sentence of death, and they were only let off. 7 out of 8 were let off. I think the 8th person is still in Qatar, answering questions, not quite in jail. Now, what happens is business rivalry, because sometimes a competent firm like Tech Mahindra bags a lot of the orders. Some of the others who are competing with them fail to do so. Then they keep going to the authorities and pointing out infractions and deviations from what they are required to do. And sooner or later, if they come into the notice of the judiciary, the laws are very, very rigid. And they apply as much to the victim as to the perpetrator, in the sense that if people who are tasked to enforce those laws don't do so, then they themselves get into trouble. That is why the only discretion which is available is at the higher levels amongst the royal family and the sheikhs. Now, usually, and I have worked for a long time in the Gulf, usually the sponsor or the sheikh who has collaborated with your company has a lot of reach. And so you complain internally, it goes to the sheikh. So in other words, an Arab deals with an Arab and these things are sorted out. Where this seems to be coming a cropper is in Qatar. I mean, in Oman and UAE, I know for certain that this is how things are worked out, because your sheikh speaks to the other sheikh, speaks to the authorities, and unless there is something really, really amiss, these things never come to a head. In Qatar, I don't know. This is the second time it's happening. The other possibility is that somehow the Qatari authorities via the judiciary are using it as some kind of leverage against India I'm surprised that the Indian embassy seems to be very tight-lipped about it. They're none the wiser, or if they are, then they're conducting quiet negotiations within the MEA setup and are not really revealing all to the public. So, this needs investigation to find out what exactly happened. But more likely
Right,
than
Gautam,
not,
let me just stop you there. Mr. Jagdish Gupta, father of Amit Gupta, is also joining us at this point in time. Jagdish जी, हमसे बातचीत करने के लिए आपका शुक्रिया सर. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Sir, please
Hello.
tell us, sir, what has happened here? We are all very concerned that Amit Gupta has been detained. What do you think happened, sir?
Actually, on 1st of January, he went to hotel for dinner. From there, some 3-4 people came and they have lifted to Amit, and then taken to they are known as a state security of Qatar. And last same day, 48 hours उसको कुर्सी पे बिठा के रखा, न उसको खाना दिया, न उसको पानी दिया, न उसको सोने दिया. उसके बाद नेक्स्ट डे उनको बोला गया उसको कि आपकी कंपनी मैनिपुलेट करके कॉन्ट्रैक्ट लेती है और आप इसके हेड है यहाँ के कतर के, इसलिए हमने आपको अरेस्ट किया है. कतर की नहीं, कंपनी के हेड है कतर और कुवैत के. उसके बाद उनसे कुछ पूछताछ नहीं हो रहा. 1.5-2 महीने से कोई उनसे पूछताछ नहीं हो रहा है. उनको खाली कमरे में बंद करके रख रखा है. ओनली 10 मिनट के लिए उनको बाहर निकालते हैं.
सर, आपकी बातचीत है, आप बात कर पा रहे हैं अमित से सर?
हाँ जी, हाँ. एवरी वेडनेसडे दे आर गिविंग 5 मिनट्स.
तो सर, आपको क्या लगता है, ये एक मिस्टेक है या फिर आपको ये लगता है कि गिरफ्तारी पहले हुई है और छानबीन बाद में की जा रही है?
पर छानबीन ये छानबीन बाद में की जा रही है. छानबीन उससे कुछ भी नहीं हो रहा. मैं स्टार्टिंग में जो उनको बोला ना, मैं आपको बताया अभी थोड़ी देर पहले कि भाई उसको ये बोला सिर्फ कि आपकी कंपनी आपकी कंपनी मैनिपुलेट करके कॉन्ट्रैक्ट लेती है, इसलिए और आप यहाँ इसके हेड है, इसलिए हमने आपको यहाँ करेक्ट छानबीन शुरू में की. उसके बाद कोई छानबीन नहीं हो रही. उससे 1.5-2 महीने से उसको अंदर ओनली कमरे में बंद करके रखा हुआ है. पता नहीं, हो सकता है वो किसी दूसरे को ढूंढ रहे हो, उस चक्कर में उसको कलेक्ट कर उसको इकट्ठा कर मतलब अरेस्ट कर रखा हो. कुछ पता नहीं है. कंपनी को भी पता नहीं है कि क्या कारण से उसको अरेस्ट कर रखा है, किसी को पता नहीं है.
सर, ये बताइए कि क्या कोई वकील किया गया है अमित के लिए या फिर उनको अपनी पैरवी खुद करनी पड़ रही है?
2 वकील क्या रखे हैं वहाँ दोहा में, कतर में, पर लेकिन उससे मिलने नहीं दे रहे वकील. हम और वाइफ मेरी एक महीने हम कतर गए थे, तो वकील से मिला. वकील ने बोला कि पावर ऑफ अटॉर्नी साइन जब तक अमित का नहीं होगा हम नहीं मिल सकते. तो पावर ऑफ अटॉर्नी साइन करने के लिए उन्होंने लेटर दिया वहाँ. वो 1 महीने बाद उन्होंने अमित से साइन करवा लिए. अभी साइन किए हुए 6 मार्च को साइन हो गया अमित का. फिर भी वो अमित वो एडवोकेट को वो पावर ऑफ अटॉर्नी का लेटर नहीं दे रहे हैं, और इसलिए वो उसको वकील को उससे मिलने के लिए भी अलाउ नहीं कर रहे हैं.
सर, आपने भारत सरकार से भी दरख्वास्त की है कि इस मामले में दखल अंदाजी की जाए, इंटरवेंशन किया जाए. उनकी तरफ से आपको क्या प्रतिक्रिया देखने को मिली है?
हमने पीएम ऑफिस में लेटर लिखा, काफी देर, करीब 20-25 1 महीना हो गया करीब. और उसके बाद हमने मिस्टर जयशंकर साहब के यहाँ भी लेटर लिखा है. कहीं से कोई रिप्लाई नहीं आ रहा. पीएमओ ऑफिस से हमको एक मिला कि वी रिसीव्ड योर वी हैव पुट इन द ग्रीवियंस सेल हमने लेटर डाला था. उसका हमने आपको दोहा एम्बेसी में उसको रेफर कर दिया है. दोहा एम्बेसी में उन्होंने एक पर्टिकुलर मिस्टर को सिंगल करके है, सेक्रेटरी वन क्या, वो उनका नंबर भी दिया. वो नंबर पे हम फोन करते हैं, कोई उठाता नहीं है और कोई रेस्पॉन्स नहीं है. हम दोहा गए थे, 2 एम्बेसडर साहब से मिले, 2 बार एम्बेसडर साहब पूरी तरह अपनी तरफ से कोशिश कर रहे हैं, लेकिन कुछ काम हो नहीं रहा है.
सर,
हम उसके परेशान
अमित 12 साल से कतर में हैं, एक अपस्टैंडिंग सिटीजन रहे हैं. आपको क्यों लगता है कि ये किस लिए किया गया है? ये पूरा माजरा इन्होंने क्यों एक तरह से कंडक्ट किया?
यही तो हमको समझ में नहीं आ रहा था. वही कंपनी को समझ में नहीं आ रहा, हमको समझ में नहीं आ रहा. और अमित खुद को कुछ अमित से जब बात होती है हम उससे पूछते भाई कुछ वो पूछ रहे, बोला पापा वो कुछ नहीं पूछ रहे, बस शुरू में जो मेरे से पूछा वही पूछा। और मैंने सब उनको डिटेल बता दिया, भाई मैंने कुछ भी नहीं किया है, हमारे कंपनी के इतने कॉन्टेक्ट्स है, आप चेक कर लीजिए, मेरा लैपटॉप चेक कर लीजिए, मेरा मोबाइल चेक कर लीजिए।
सर, आपको लगता है कि भारतीय मूल के लोगों के लिए या भारतीय मूल के लोगों के साथ जो कतर में होता है उससे सबको एक तरह से सावधानी बरतनी चाहिए, क्योंकि बिना वजह किसी को भी उठा लिया जाता है। और पिछले साल भी अगर आपको याद हो कि 8 मर्चेंट नेवी के भी एम्प्लॉयज़ थे जिनको मौत की सज़ा सुना दी गई थी। उसके बाद भारत सरकार ने जब इंटरवेंशन किया उसी के बाद उनको छोड़ा गया।
ये बिल्कुल सही बात है, आप बिल्कुल सही बोल रहे हो। वो इंडियंस का वहाँ ज्यादा कोई वैल्यू ही नहीं है। पहली बात तो इंडियंस को अगेंस्ट में चलते रहे वहां पे, और हमारे बच्चे को किस लिए उठाया ये मतलब भगवान ही जानता है। वो कोई मतलब रीजन देना चाहिए ना उठाने। मान लो यदि कुछ समथिंग गलत हुआ है किसी का, दे शुड आस्क फ्रॉम द कंपनी, भाई आपकी कंपनी के एम्प्लॉय ने ये गलत किया है। कंपनी को भी उन्होंने कोई इन्फॉर्म नहीं किया, डायरेक्ट हमारे बेटे को उन्होंने उठा लिया।
सर, कतर जैसे देश में जहाँ पर इस्लामी कानून है और एक डेमोक्रेटिक तरीके से कोई भी काम नहीं हो सकता है, आपने जैसा कहा कि उनके वकीलों को भी उनसे नहीं मिलने दिया जा रहा है, तो आपको लगता है भारतीय लोगों को ऐसे देशों में सेटल होने के सपने देखने चाहिए?
नहीं देखने चाहिए। सेटल होने का तो कोई सवाल नहीं है। वो तो वहां पर रिक्रूट किया। अब देखो आदमी जब सर्विस करता है उसको जहाँ अच्छा ऑफर मिलता है वो चला जाता है। आप देख ही रहे, आप अपने अपने इंडियन कितने यूएसए में कितने भरे हुए हैं। कोई आईटी करके निकलता है वो सब इंडिया में रहता है? कोई नहीं रहता, सब बाहर चले जाते हैं। जो जो जिसको जहाँ अच्छा मौका मिलता है वहाँ चला जाता है। हालांकि ये हम जानते हैं कि वह डेमोक्रेटिक कंट्री नहीं, इसलिए वहाँ पे आपको संभल के रहना चाहिए। लेकिन सिंस 12 ईयर से वो काम कर रहा है वहाँ, उसको वहाँ का सब सिस्टम पता है। उसने कोई गलत काम किया नहीं है। कंपनी की उस नॉलेज में वो बहुत ही सिंसियर एंड हार्ड वर्कर जाना जाता है। अब उसको किस कारण से लिया ये भी तो सबसे बड़ी प्रॉब्लम हो रही है। कंपनी भी बताने में हमको असमर्थ है, वो भी नहीं बता रही। वो भी ये बोल रहे हैं पता नहीं क्यों कर रखा है, क्या कर रखा है। हम उनको कंपनी को रिक्वेस्ट किया भाई आप मिस्टर आनंद महिंद्रा के थ्रू अप्रोच करवाइए जयशंकर साहब के यहाँ, क्यों हम तो पहुंच नहीं सकते डायरेक्ट।
जी सर, आपकी सरकार से, भारत सरकार से क्या मांग है?
मैं तो मांग ये कि हमारे बच्चे को न्याय किया जाए, उसको वहां से रिलीज किया जाए, या यदि उसने कोई गलती किया है तो उसको बताया जाए भैया तुमने ये गलती किया है। उसने कोई गलती नहीं किया, 3 महीने से उसको अंडर मेंटल टॉर्चर हो रहा है। वो एक बंद कमरे में रखकर आप मेरी नहीं कर सकते हो। जो आदमी बंद कमरे में कैसे, वहाँ कोई न टीवी है, न कोई मोबाइल है, न कोई पेपर है, और कोई किसी से मिलना जुलना नहीं। किसी ऑनलाइन 10 मिनट के लिए उसको बाहर निकालते हैं 24 घंटे में, तो आदमी वैसे ही पागल हो जाता है। लोकल फूड देते हैं खाने में, वो लोकल खबूस होता है जो वहाँ की रोटी होती है वो खाने फूड देते हैं उसको। तो बताइए, और ठीक है हमको यदि कुछ कारण है, कुछ यदि आपके पास कुछ मिल रहा है आप रखिए उसको, पर बिना मतलब रखने का क्या कारण है यार। हमने उनको ये भी रिक्वेस्ट किया एडवोकेट के थ्रू, भाई आप बोलिए कि उसका टेबल बैन लगा दो, उसका पासपोर्ट रख लो, उसका होम अरेस्ट कर दो। पर एटलीस्ट वहां से तो बिना मतलब आप डेली पूछताछ करते हुए कुछ आपको क्लू मिलता है आप रखिए, हमको कोई प्रॉब्लम नहीं है।
जगदीश जी, आपने अपनी बात कही और मुझे पूरा यकीन है कि आपकी बात हमसे रूबरू होने के बाद सरकार तक पहुंचेगी, दुनिया तक पहुंचेगी, और अमित जल्द ही वापस घर आएगा। हमसे बातचीत करने के लिए आपका धन्यवाद। जी सर। Manand Dwivedi, foreign affairs expert, also joining us on the show. Mr. Dwivedi, another case of apathy from the Qatari regime, putting someone behind bars or detaining them without substantiating what they have done, or perhaps even being able to file any charges.
I personally feel that it's a very shocking and it's a very surprising and a very debilitating substance event or a development which India's foreign policy and India's bilateral relations with Qatar find itself in. I personally feel that if we go into the years 2015 and 2016, then our Honorable Prime Minister Narendra Modi went in there in 2015 and 16 and a new strategic partnership, which means a comprehensive partnership was initiated between New Delhi and Doha. This is one part of it. And apart from that, there have been past instances also, which have been mentioned in the discussions with other panelists, that 8 Indian naval officers who were retired, they were the former naval officers, and they had been booked under Qatari law for undertaking espionage and spying on the part of the Indian establishment. And it was only at the behest of the intervention by the Ministry of External Affairs that we were able to see the return of those 7 people, and the eighth person, if my memory serves me right, is still with them. Apart from that, if you look at Qatar, we have got a very, very frothy, friendly, and a cooperative and collaborative partnership with them. And recently, in one of the exchanges between India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi and Hamid Al Thani, who's the head of state, and Thani also is one of their foreign ministers. It was estimated that 78 to 82 billion dollars of bilateral trade exists between India and Qatar, and Indian population, I think, if I'm correct, forms a quantum of, let's say, 25% of the total population of Qatar. That kind of a thing is there. So, despite having so many convergence points, despite having so many amalgamating factors, it is very surprising that the Qatari law, Qatari establishment, the Qatar's government, they are not cooperative, and they are slightly intransigent as far as their relations with India are concerned. I personally feel that if there is an extradition treaty between India and Qatar, as the talk of the extradition between India and Bangladesh also has been occurring in the last couple of months. So we can directly, the MEA or the Prime Minister or anybody in the government can talk to them directly. And looking at what I've heard from Mr. Gupta's travesty, I feel that the government should take an immediate, should keep the foot down and immediately request the Premier of Qatar to release Shri Gupta ji.
You're absolutely right, and that's exactly what needs to be done here. Unfortunately, we've run out of time. Appreciate everybody who joined in and weighed in on this important development. Well, we'll take a short break now. Be right back.